everybody. Thanks for joining Lunch Breaks with John. I'm John, your host, and I'm in the line at Zaxby's right now. I'm waiting to order their signature chicken sandwich. I've never tried it before, so I just wanted to do a video on that, taste testing it today. I'm sure all of you probably know about how Popeyes came out with the chicken sandwich a couple of years ago, and it kind of blew up on the internet. People debating about who has the better chicken sandwich of Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. And as someone who's worked at Chick-fil-A for several years and eaten many Chick-fil-A sandwiches, when I tried the Popeye sandwich, I did think it was very good, but I didn't think it quite beat the quality of Chick-fil-A's chicken sandwich. But we're about to test the Zaxby's chicken sandwich. I know it's been out for a little bit, but this is my first time trying it, so we're going to be doing that here in just a few minutes. And while I'm waiting in line, I figured I'd just go ahead and kill some time because the line is pretty long in this drive-thru. So please stick towards the end of this video when I actually try that chicken sandwich. Right now, while I'm just waiting in line, I'm just going to be talking about some podcast things that I've been listening to lately, and maybe you'll enjoy them if you have similar tastes to me. But one of the podcasts that I recently discovered that I really like is called Apologetics 315. Like the number is 315. It's a really good podcast. These two different guys, they interview a bunch of different people, and they just do a lot of conversations about apologetics and defending the Bible, defending the Christian faith and everything like that. Kind of how to defend that in the face of agnosticism and atheism and things like that. It's a really cool podcast to listen to. I've only listened to maybe 3 of their episodes so far, but I've enjoyed them very much. Another good podcast that I listen to is called 26 Letters. It's by this couple named Dave and Sam. I think Velasquez is their last name, and they grew up in a very similar church setting as to what I have been in for like the past 10 years or so, until just last year or so I kind of moved to a different denomination. It's a very lighthearted, fun podcast to listen to, very entertaining and enjoyable to listen to. They don't really like criticize too hard or anything on there or slander anyone, but they call out some kind of false teachings and different things like that, but in a very lighthearted manner, in a loving way, not to try to bring anyone down or anything like that. So I think it's a very good podcast. They're just really funny to listen to. They make me laugh every single time I listen to that podcast. They come out usually on Fridays, kind of like this channel. But I always enjoy listening to them. It always puts me in a good mood and just makes me crack up sometimes. Another good podcast that I like to listen to is called The Science of Success. They are a couple different guys that they do some interviews and they do some talks on their own just about different things of how to be successful with your money, with your career and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good, informative podcast as well. All right, so I had to stop the video for a second to order my meal, but we did that, and it looks like it's going to be maybe just a couple more minutes before I get my food. So we're going to continue on with the list of podcasts that I'm listening to. The next podcast on the list that I've been listening to called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. It's about this church out in, I think, Seattle, called Mars Hill, pastored by Mark Driscoll. He was known for being a very big narcissist, but it's just a really interesting story. The way their episodes are set up is kind of like a documentary style. Very interesting. If you grew up in church and maybe you've experienced some narcissism and stuff like that in church settings, it's a good podcast to listen to. The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. One that I didn't put on my list, but I really have enjoyed too, is the Young Baptist podcast. That's by Clay Maynard and Josh Johnson out in Panama City, Florida. They do a really good job on their podcast. They're very straightforward and direct. They talk about fundamentals and Baptist distinctives and things like that. If you're Baptist or maybe are like-minded church or denomination that at least believes in the Baptist doctrines and things like that, I think you would enjoy that as well. It's a really good podcast, and they're very loving and gracious in the way that they do their podcast as well. They're not trying to slander anyone or bring anyone down, but it's a really good podcast. The last one I wanted to mention is the Bad Roman podcast My dad actually just recently sent me one of their episodes about Christians and the border and things like that. And I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a libertarian type podcast. I don't think it's actually libertarian, but the main host on there, I think he's like a anarcho-capitalist. And it's just very interesting. It talks about how Christians and the state intermingle and things like that. So I think you would enjoy that as well. All right, guys, I finally got the food ordered, so I'm going to go ahead and try that out. We got our trusty Dr. Pepper, arguably one of the best drinks in the world. And of course, no meal is complete without fries, so we got those crinkle cut Zaxby's fries with some ranch to dip it in. Got that right here. Make that where you guys can see it a little better. Those are some of the podcasts that I like listening to. There's a few other ones that I like to listen to as well. Last year I really listened to the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast a lot, and I've still been listening to them. They haven't been doing as much episodes in the last couple months, but I think they're back to being on a regular schedule. I think the name pretty much describes itself. But what the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast is about, it's these three pastors that they used to be independent fundamental Baptists. That's what they grew up as, and they started to see some things that just didn't sit right with them in the church and in the churches that they grew up in, and just a lot of inconsistencies and double standards and things like that. And so yeah, they're a really interesting podcast to check out. I will say though that some people who listen to them, I think, get a little bit too caught up in the weeds of bitterness and everything against the IFB movement, or the Independent Baptist movement, and that's something that I'm not the biggest fan of, but it has helped me a lot to grow spiritually and to learn to not depend on pastors and preaching for my spirituality, but to actually go into the Bible and study things out for myself. So in that aspect, that podcast has helped me out a lot the last year or so. But I'm trying to expand my horizons in the podcast world and things that I'm listening to, and not listening to so much stuff that's just talking about the negative things in different denominations. I think as a Christian, it's important to move past those things. They definitely should be addressed. The false teaching and abuse and stuff like that, I think that should be addressed in churches, but it's important to move past those things and to grow in Christ. And anyway, I'm eating food now, so I need to be talking about the food. So these fries are delicious. The ranch is really good. Goes with it really good. I'll hold up one of the fries for you to see. You see it's got that seasoning on it that's really good. But I know you guys are watching for the chicken sandwich tasting, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Wash down my palate with some more DP. Alright guys, here goes. So we got this packaging here. Here it is. Looking at it for the first time. Looks kind of sort of similar to the Chick-fil-A sandwich setup. You got the two pickles underneath, but there's some sauce that they have added. I guess it's the Zaxby's sauce. So I'm gonna go ahead and bite into this monster and see how delicious it tastes. That first bite was pretty much straight up chicken, so I didn't really get to taste the sauce or the bread or anything else with that. So I'm going to take another bite before I tell you my thoughts. Alright, so I had to grab some napkins out of my glove box because it seems like they forgot to give me the napkins. But, yeah, I like that sandwich. It was pretty good. My initial reaction is that it tastes very similar to the Popeyes chicken sandwich. and the style of breading and chicken that they use in it. It's not quite the same as the chicken in the Chick-fil-A sandwich, but it's probably mainly the breading that's the difference in that. But I mean, I do really like it. I would say I give it probably at least a 7 out of 10 for taste and everything like that. The pickles and the Zaxby's sauce definitely complement the taste of the chicken on this sandwich, so it's really good. Normally I don't eat out on my lunch breaks. I usually just bring like a turkey and cheese wrap from home or something. I'll make that, or maybe bring a frozen dinner and microwave it and eat it in the car or something like that. But figured for this episode I would indulge myself a little bit and try out this chicken sandwich because I've been wanting to try it for a while. I haven't had Zaxby's in probably at least 6 to 8 months or so. It's been a while. There's a lot of places that I just haven't been back to since COVID hit, just because so many places haven't reopened their lobbies yet. I'm a person that if I'm going to eat out, I prefer to eat inside the restaurant instead of eating in the car, unless it's like on my lunch break or something. I figured I'd go ahead and try this today since it's right down the road from where I work. But yeah, it's a really good sandwich. Definitely enjoy it. But I won't make you guys sit through the whole process of me eating this sandwich. Just wanted to let you guys see my reaction. I think compared to the other sandwiches, I would say I feel like the breading on Popeye's chicken sandwich was maybe just a little bit better than this one. But that's not saying anything negative about this sandwich. I really enjoyed it. I really like it, and it has, I mean, everything goes well together. The sauce, the pickles, the breading, the bread, it's all good. So it's a really good sandwich. I think the Popeyes chicken sandwich, though, at least the first time I tried it, I think, I mean, it's been several months, probably over a year since I've had one of their sandwiches as well, but I think that I liked theirs maybe just a tad bit more. But I still think Chick-fil-A has the best chicken sandwiches. It's just really hard to beat that quality and everything that they do. If we're doing a comparison, I'm going to say Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, and then Zaxby's on the chicken sandwich scale. But then again, if we're going just straight off of the chicken and not the sandwiches, I would say Popeyes is probably my favorite. Theirs is probably my favorite for bone-in chicken. And if we're going down to chicken strips, I would say Zaxby's. But then again, it goes back to Chick-fil-A when you get to the chicken nuggets, because nothing beats Chick-fil-A's chicken nuggets. They just got the best nuggets in the world. And especially if you pair it with either Chick-fil-A sauce or the sweet and spicy sriracha sauce, that stuff's just amazing. It's like crack or something. They must put something inside their Chick-fil-A sauce to make it so addicting. But anyway, thank you guys for sticking through to this episode. Remember to like and subscribe and comment. And I hope you guys, if you're on your lunch break, hope you enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of your break. Have a good weekend, and we will see you on the next episode of Lunch Breaks with John. Take care.